Summer. The season of it being way too goddamn hot for me to come up with another clever introduction for this video. But you guys know the drill by now. It's been 3 months, and that means there's a buttload of new anime coming out. Some of it's really good, some of it's really not, but it can be hard to tell the difference at first glance. Luckily, you've got me, your steward and guide, the anime pope, to sit down, watch everything, and tell you which 10 anime from summer 2018 I think are the most worth your time. Because while summer gives a lot of us a bit of extra freedom, you could spend that free time playing games or catching up on old shows or even learning new skills, and the last thing you want to do is end up wasting it on mediocre anime. Or accidentally watching Island and wasting the next decade of your life in jail. So, in the interest of maximizing your time spent watching good anime, let's dive right into the ones to watch for summer. Let's dive right in. Let's dive. Come on, dude, I'm setting you up. Never mind. Grand Blue Dreaming. One episode in, Grand Blue Dreaming, not to be confused with Grand Blue Fantasy, is already easily in my top 2 scuba diving anime of all time. Although I'll have to wait to the end of the season to see whether it or Amanchu ultimately floats to the top. Okay, jokes aside, Amanchu and Grand Blue Dreaming really couldn't be more different. Where the one other diving anime is a sweet, laid-back, relaxing series with Yuri undertones, Grand Blue Dreaming is a raucous, rowdy comedy with lots of... Yeah, that. Don't get me wrong, this show has its fair share of cute girls in skimpy outfits, but it's got more than its share of burly dudes in even skimpier ones. Or no outfits a lot of the time. Grand Blue tells the story of Kitahara Iori, a college boy who dreams of making friends and getting laid, but ends up getting roped in by the idiots who hang out at his uncle's diving shop and condemned to a school life of drunken antics with their diving club. This is a tale of idiots daring to be idiots, which is exactly the kind of story that Baka and Test author Kenji Inoue excels at telling, as does Gintama and School Rumble director Shinji Takamatsu. This anime's production is kind of a match made in heaven, so from the get-go I had high expectations, and I'm pleased to say that Grand Blue blew even those out of the water. It's kind of rare to see an anime tackle the mostly American domain of stupid booze-fueled college comedies, but Grand Blue is tackling it with gusto, and I can't wait for the next hilarious episode to hit Amazon Prime. Speaking of hilarity, this season is ripe with strong comedies, but I think the strongest, and the one most likely to steal Hinamatsuri's Best Comedy of the Year crown, is Asobi Asobase. From a cursory glance at the watercolor art style and cute character designs, not to mention the sugary sweet OP, you might expect this anime to be yet another lighthearted moe show without much bite or substance to it. And you'd be dead wrong. Asobi Asobase is an off-the-wall comedy of the highest order, with a first episode that very distinctly reminded me of some of the best stuff in Nichijou. As Nichijou and many of these shows do, Asobi Asobase focuses on a group of 3 schoolgirls with distinct personalities. There's Kasumi, a straight-laced, serious nerd who struggles with English and can get really scary when she's got her mind set on something. Hinako, a goofy weirdo with a few screws loose who learns to be a normal and popular schoolgirl. And Olivia, a white girl who was born in Japan and can't speak a word of English, yet pretends to be an illiterate exchange student to fuck with the other two. There's not a lot that I can say about this show at this stage, except that despite appearances, it is bust-a-gut funny. Its cutesy art style gets twisted into reaction faces that can easily match the best Grand Blue Dreaming and Hinamatsuri have to offer, which is saying a lot, and the gags often go to absurd, kinda disturbing places. The last joke of the first episode in particular had me rolling on the floor. Of course, the real measure of a comedy's strength is how the jokes and characters hold up over time. Plenty of shows get repetitive as they drag on, but this is one of the strongest first episodes I've seen from a comedy, and I've got high hopes for it moving forward. If you're looking for a good laugh, you can watch Asobi Asobase on Crunchyroll. Banana Fish is an adaptation of an all-time classic hard-boiled gangster manga from the 1980s, one that just happens to be a shoujo title, which is the last place that you'd expect to see this kind of story nowadays, but the 80s were a different time. This is also one of the progenitors of the shonen ai or boys love subgenre, though it focuses more on mostly platonic love between men than on yaoi-handed fan service. It's definitely more Yuri on Ice than Junjo Romantica. The show's plot focuses on a young New York gangster named Ash Lynx and a Japanese reporter named Eiji who form a bond with each other amid the mounting chaos and tensions between the city's competing gangs. It's a complicated, mature story that, like the best gangster films, defies simple summary, buoyed by a large cast of three-dimensional characters and a solid blend of mystery, tension, and action. Those action scenes are pretty killer, and this anime adaptation kicks them up past 11 to, like, 15. The original manga's art was a little on the stiff side, but free director Hiroko Utsumi knows how to make dudes swimming in a straight line feel like it's the most exciting thing in the world, so needless to say, she gets good mileage out of these gunfights. Working with Studio Mappa doesn't hurt either, and the show's production values are sky high. Based on what I've seen so far, I think this is going to end up being one of the most exciting shows of the season. It hits a setting and subject matter that we rarely see in anime, and when we do, those titles are often influenced by the original Banana Fish manga, yet this adaptation manages to knock it out of the park on basically every level. If you enjoy crime dramas, action anime, a bit of good old-fashioned homoeroticism, or any combination thereof, Banana Fish is likely gonna be one of your favorites this season. The original manga is hailed as a classic for a reason, enjoyed by boys and girls of all ages in Japan, and this adaptation looks like it will more than do it justice. If you're interested, Banana Fish is streaming on Amazon. Damn, we're already 3 items into this list and I haven't seen any choice bikini shots yet. What kind of summer season is this? Fortunately, while most of the ecchi shows this season are kinda lacking in one department or another, or in every department if we're talking about Master of Ragnarok, Harukana Receive is here to pick up the slack. In my pants, that is. Alright, so here's the thing about Harukana Receive. I literally only started watching it because booties are what we love. But I was surprised to find that there's a lot more there, and I'm not just talking about the T in the T&A equation. Yes, this is a very well-produced, nicely animated cavalcade of jiggly fan service, but it's also a surprisingly strong red-blooded competitive sports anime. And love story? Yeah, actually, the show uses the beach volleyball partnership as a kind of on-the-nose metaphor for romantic relationships, and beyond the obvious Yuri bait, it seems to have something genuinely thoughtful to say about what it means to support and rely on a romantic partner. This show has got a lot of heart, which was just about the last thing I expected to see in an anime that looks like this. Although, speaking of how it looks, if you can look past the titties, Harukana Receive is pretty dang gorgeous all around. Its CG water and sand particle effects are really good and breathe refreshing, summery life into the already solid character animation. And director Toshiyuki Kubooka, fresh off the Berserk movies, has a great eye for shot composition and visual storytelling. Mix in a fantastic OST courtesy of Rasmus Faber, and you've got an anime that's a treat for all the senses, not just the one that you'd expect. Speaking of surprises, Angolmois, Record of Mongol Invasion, has turned out to be a very pleasant one. It's a historical drama set during the first Mongol invasion of Japan back in 1274. A fascinating and bloody turning point in Japanese history that mostly gets passed over in fiction for the more romanticized Sengoku period. Specifically, the series tells the story of a group of exiled Japanese prisoners who are conscripted by the rulers of Tsushima Island, the front line of the invasion, to fight off the Mongol hordes. Our hero is Kuuchi Jinzaburo, a disgraced samurai who takes up arms alongside pirates, thieves, and other malcontents, in part to defend his homeland and in part to satisfy his apparent thirst for violence. Violence is definitely the main draw of this show, and it's really well executed. While it's a bit overdone with the obnoxious paper filter over everything, the rough, sketchy look of the show is well matched to the raw, visceral feel of the action, and the swordplay on display here is well choreographed and shot. This feels like a proper Chanbara samurai flick with only a tiny amount of anime bullshit mixed in. Angolmois probably isn't going to be for everyone, but if you like historical fiction with golden kamui that pays a lot of attention to small details and addresses parts of history that haven't been overplayed, or you're just looking to see something new in an action anime, I highly recommend checking it out. So far, I am hooked. And on top of that, I'm learning things.
Yes! It's so educational!
You're really weird, kid.
On that note, Cells at Work, as the name aptly suggests, is a comedy about cells working in a city that represents the human body. Think Osmosis Jones with more wry Japanese wit and less Bill Murray farting. The series stars Best Girl Red Blood Cell, a particularly ditzy example of many such cells who work as oxygen delivery ladies within the body. As the series goes on, she develops a friendship with a kindly but soft-spoken white blood cell, and we get to learn all about the body as it undergoes all sorts of trauma like wounds and infections. Basically, this is a Monster of the Week anime, with the monsters being replaced with bacteria and viruses. And the monsters are generally dealt with by having an army of white blood cells violently stab them to death with hunting knives. And then they spurt blood on the blood for some reason, just don't think about it. Okay, yeah. Cells at Work isn't necessarily the most accurate biology lesson, but in all other respects, this anime is a really fun time. The comedic aspects are cute and heartwarming, and the action, when it comes up, is entertaining, if kinda simple. The real draw of the series is the clever metaphors that it comes up with for various bodily functions, like the adorable kindergartner platelets we see clumsily repairing the body and cheering our main heroes on, or the very uncomfortable mound of cells that forms a blood clot after a scrape in episode 2. It's nowhere near 100% based in science, but it's definitely charming, funny, and memorable enough that viewers should retain the facts that it does present to them. It's rare for edutainment to get the entertainment part of that equation down this well, and it is an absolute pleasure to watch these cells working. For people who like their workplace comedies a little more down to earth, Tonegawa's Middle Management Blues has you covered. The show follows a middle manager in a debt collection agency as he desperately tries to stay sane and find a bit of downtime in between the usual Japanese corporate busywork of organizing a death game to keep his psychotic old boss from getting bored. And if that doesn't convince you to watch it, well, I don't know what will. Tonegawa is a comedic prequel of sorts, starring one of the villains from the greatest gambling thriller anime of all time, Kaiji, which means that someone out there made an entire show just for me and Super Eyepatch Wolf, and I think that's pretty nifty. One of the key features that makes Kaiji's gambling so nerve-wracking is the show's narrator, who describes the inner thoughts of the hero and sometimes the villains and the detail of his predicaments with poetic language and dramatic aplomb. In addition to the art style and sound effects that characterize Kaiji, Tonegawa takes that same narrator and has him talk about awkward office interactions like trying to memorize your subordinates' names with the exact same level of enthusiasm, treating those moments the same way that he treats a turn in Mahjong, that is to say, like it's the end of the goddamn world. If you haven't watched Kaiji yet, you can still enjoy Tonegawa, but it's definitely intended for fans of the show, and it will spoil big chunks of the original series right off the bat. So if Kaiji's already on your to-watch list, maybe hold off a bit on this, or at least skip the intro to each episode to avoid spoiling yourself. But also, please, just watch Kaiji. Please. It's the best. You can find both series on Crunchyroll. In all my years watching anime, I've found that sports anime are often among the best and least appreciated shows out there. The genre contains plenty of examples of exciting underdog stories rife with great character drama that can easily compete with the best shonen battle series, but general lack of weeb interest in sports means that only rare exceptions like Haikyuu and Megalobox rise to the top and are recognized for how hype they can really be. Hanebado, a show about girls playing badminton, is already shaping up to be one hell of a great sports anime, and it deserves to be watched by, well, just about everyone with even a passing interest in anime. It's got a great and memorable cast of very cute girls, I've been getting strong Hibike Euphonium vibes from this one, and explores a strong underlying theme of talent versus skill and the frustration of trying your hardest at something you love, only to still come up short. The show also does a great job of exploring both the psychology and tactics of badminton, which is a must for any sports-based anime looking to hang with the all-time greats. Yes, ultimately the character drama is what gives these shows legs and makes them interesting, but making the sport at the center of it all feel exciting and true to life is really important too. Hanebado's dedication to getting that right comes across not just in its writing, but also its animation, which is stunning. Matches use lots of fast, exciting camera moves as well as rotoscoped animation augmented with a lot of anime flair that makes the characters practically leap out of the screen. I don't need Sakuga to enjoy this kind of show. The janky Baby Steps is still my favorite sports series of all time, but damn, it definitely helps. Hanebado might well be the most gorgeous anime this season, although my next recommendation definitely gives it a run for its budget. Revue Starlight, the sole high dive show I'm highlighting on this season's list, is pretty dang weird. Like, I've watched the first episode twice now and I'm still not 100% sure what it's all about, but I am 100% sure that I love it. The series focuses on a group of girls in an acting class at Seisho Music Academy, a prestigious all-girls art school, as they compete for starring roles in the school's third-year production of a show called Starlight. As an ex-high school theater geek, this show's themes immediately grabbed me. I'd be totally on board for a moe show about young actresses studying ballet, stage fighting, and other crafts as they come into their own as performers. But early on, the protagonist, Karen, has strange prophetic dreams of Tokyo Tower, hinting that perhaps there's something more going on here. And in the first episode's totally bonkers third act, we see exactly what it is, although I still have no idea what it is. Essentially, the top actresses at the school lead secret double lives as magical stage girls, who must engage in theatrical singing and dancing audition duels called revues on a massive underground stage under the watchful eye of a talking giraffe, all to determine who gets to wear the heavenly tiara of the top star. Yeah, this show is nuts, and as you can probably tell from what's on screen, thanks to the backing of Bushiroad, it is fully committed to making that over-the-top insanity as gorgeous and exciting as humanly possible. There are other great action series this season, but this one has immediately cemented itself at the top of the pile. Calling Revue Starlight ambitious would be a massive understatement. Will the story be any good? I hope so. I'm getting flashes of Utena and Star Driver here, which is a pretty good sign. But even if I come away just as baffled at the end of this show as I am at the beginning, I feel like the sheer spectacle of these musical fights is going to make it worth the watch. I'm tempted to say that this is going to be my favorite show of the season, but there's one more quirky original anime this summer that's got my hopes even higher. I have a lot of questions about Planet With. First and foremost, with what? You can't just end your title in a preposition like that. You're killing me here. Putting grammar aside though, I'm still very confused by the first episode of this series. This anime intentionally leans as hard as it can into the realm of the surreal, kicking things off by introducing us to an amnesiac kid living with a cosplaying maid and a humanoid cat who enjoys looking up the skirts of figurines and only getting stranger from there. And with anime monsters whose primary attack seems to be helping their enemies with their deepest wishes and regrets, and who are motivated by an interesting twist on a philosophy taken straight from classic sci-fi, I've got a feeling that we're in for a wild, unpredictable ride here. I mean, by the end of episode 2, we've already gone pretty off the rails. Admittedly, the first episode is more than a little confusing, and I can understand people being a bit put off by its zany tone and seemingly nonsensical plot. Though I think the second episode does a good job of clarifying some things, but beyond that, I've got one very good reason to suspect that this show will turn out to be amazing. Maybe even a masterpiece. And his name is Satoshi Mizukami. Mizukami is the mangaka behind Spirit Circle, Lucifer and Biscuit Hammer, and Sengoku Yoko, and you're already getting excited if you know what those are, but if you don't, they're 3 of the best manga ever written. His stories are defined by their powerful emotional weight, their tight, clever writing that defies cliché at every turn, and their batshit crazy premises. Obviously, Planet With has already ticked off that last box with a first episode that manages to out-ridiculous the new Fooly Cooly. It is goddamn criminal that Mizukami's work hasn't yet been adapted into anime. I made a video ranting about this 2 years ago to give you some idea of how much I stand behind that statement. But the apparent trade-off for that long injustice is that he now gets to write and design his own original anime production, backed by a staff of industry veterans, including the sound designer for JoJo, who does a great job here, and the director of UQ Holder, Danmachi Sword Oratoria, and friggin' Shimoneta, which is pretty much a match made in heaven. If you haven't yet read Spirit Circle or Lucifer and Biscuit Hammer, you should go do that at your earliest convenience, but until you do, you're gonna have to trust me on this. Mizukani is a genius, and if Planet With doesn't turn out to be a masterpiece, I will let you guys and Yazzie pick out a Vlogbrothers style punishment for me to do on camera. Seriously, if you watch only one anime this summer, make it Planet With. But all 10 of the anime I just mentioned are also well worth your time, and there are a few other shows of note that didn't quite make the list for one reason or another, bearing in mind that I'm not including continuing anime because obviously the people watching those are going to keep watching them. Yuna's Haunted Hot Springs seems like a fun shonen ecchi show, but the fan service is kind of muted, especially before the Blu-ray release, and so far it feels pretty predictable plot-wise. Speaking of ecchi, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord has it in spades and very high quality, and it hits a lot of my fetishes, but it's kinda hard to recommend on a story or character level because it is so dumb. I like the concept, acting, and writing of Happy Sugar Life, which is, despite appearances, a horror anime, but the low-quality visuals and cheap animation took away a lot of my potential enjoyment. And I'm enjoying Seven Senses of the Reunion, a bargain bin asylum knockoff of Anohana and SAO, more than I thought I would, though my interest in it is at least half morbid curiosity to see how they're gonna screw this up. And I need to give a special shout out to Angels of Death, which just barely missed making the cut for this list. It's a really fun piece of slasher film schlock, and everyone involved, especially the animators and actors, seems to be having as much fun making it as I am watching it. There are also 2 Netflix anime that I'm looking forward to enjoying whenever Netflix decides to actually bring them stateside: Sirius the Jaeger and High Score Girl. All of those are potentially worth watching depending on your taste and patience. But as I mentioned at the start of this video, anime isn't the only thing you can spend your free time on this summer, and one of the most productive things you can do with all of that time is learn.
How about science slumber parties?
Okay, yeah, I know this sounds kinda lame, but I'm not talking about revising your high school curriculum here. I'm talking about this video's sponsor, Skillshare, an online self-directed learning platform that makes it easy and fun to pick up skills and knowledge from a community of experts in just about any field that you might be interested in. On Skillshare, you can find comprehensive, interactive lessons on everything from Photoshop to essential life skills like cooking, all taught by pros who know what they're doing and can actively answer any questions you might have. Right now, I'm using Skillshare to bone up on my Japanese, which is useful for any anime fan, especially in this age of Netflix delays, and to get better at using After Effects. And the best thing about it all is that it's cheap. Skillshare's premium membership costs just $10 a month and grants you unlimited access to every last one of the high-quality lessons on the platform. And if that price isn't enough to entice you, the first 500 people who sign up with skl.sh/basement will get to try the service free for 2 months. Yeah, that's right, you'll get a whole summer of learning entirely free. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for Skillshare and get learning today. But before you go, I've got 2 quick questions for you to answer in the comments. Firstly, which shows this season are you the most hyped about? And secondly, Planet with what? Planet with what? I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.